going on, guys? Jesse504 here, bringing you your LBT Week 7 feature match. This week, we have SirKill and his Dubai Dragon Riders going up against Monster Masher and his Fall Arbor Flames. I'll read out the teams right now. Monster Masher's team consists of Latios, Mega Latios actually, Magirna, Cresselia, Celesteela, Galarian Corsola, Incineroar, Decidueye, Darkrai, Alomomola, Raikou, and Lycanroc Day. Meanwhile, SirKill's team consists of Mega Scizor, Marshadow, Tapu Bulu, Suicune, Sylveon, Ditto, Miltank, Eternatus, Mew, Crocodile, and Rotom Heat. So both teams are pretty strong. One of them's kind of a hard stall team, the other one's a bit more offensive. So going over the teams, first off we have SirKill's team right here. He is bringing a more offensive Rotom with a Nasty Plot set this week. Nasty Plot, Thunderbolt, Overheat, Pain Split. Can kind of keep itself healthy. Won't be taking too much Rock Chip from heavy duty boots and can Pain Split back up against some of Monster's more fat mons. And can just do big damage. Up next, Mega Scizor. This thing has been a beast all season. SD, Bullet Punch, Knockoff, and Roost. Roost makes it really sustainable against monsters that are more stall mons because of just the ability for it to really just it can't get toxic, no toxic is big for it because that's kind of how Monster wears stuff down, and Monster doesn't really burn too much outside of Scald, so that's really helpful for it, and it can kind of set up Swords Dances on some more passive mons. Up next we have his Marshadow, max speed to speed tie Deoxys, Choice Bandit, Spectral Thief, Close Combat, Thunder Punch, Shadow Sneak. Thunder Punch is great against Monster, hits the Celesteela as well as the Alomomola pretty well, and then just Spectral Thief can go in if Monster tries to set up with Latios or something. And Shadow Sneak's just great for priority. Up next, Eternatus. This thing has been great all season. Flamethrower, Dynamax Cannon, Sludge Wave, Shadow Ball. Just 4 attacks, and it just does so much damage to really everything on Monster's team. Up next is the Ditto, Quick Claw Ditto, so kind of more of a luck-based Ditto rather than a more consistent Choice Scarf Ditto, but still you have about a 60% chance to win the speed ties as opposed to a 50% chance, so tilting the odds in your favor like that is always helpful. And then lastly we have a Mew set with Nasty Plot, Stealth Rock, Baton Pass, and Aura Sphere. So if you can Nasty Plot pass into the Eternatus, it can just be pretty close to just sweeping from there. Stealth Rocks are pretty nice against Monster's team, and Aura Sphere is just solid coverage, and being able to hold the Colbur Berry means that Deoxys isn't quite as much of a threat. Now if we move over to Monster's team, we see Celesteela, Latios, Darkrai, Incineroar, Raikou, and Cresselia. So Celesteela, this was kind of my creation. I helped Monster prep a little bit here, so I can sort of go a little bit more in depth with his stuff. Air Slash, Cosmic Power, Leech Seed, and Toxic. The idea with this set was that once Scizor was down, it could pretty much win, or if the Scizor did not have Roost, it could pretty much win. So either of those things could happen, and then this Celesteela set went in. Up next, Mega Latios. He decided more on a physical Mega Latios. I mean, generally they run special, but he's really smart about bringing minus defense natures, which, because of a Ditto, being able to hit them physically, hit with his counter to Ditto, which is his Incineroar, is really nice. Up next, Blunder Policy Darkrai, Dark Void, Nasty Plot, Dark Pulse, and Psychic. So this set can get going with, let's say maybe turn 1, it'll put, it's either going to be set up with speed or have a sleeping target in front of it so we can set up with special attack, both of which are really nice. Up next, AV Incineroar. This one was also my idea, just as a way to kind of do a little bit better against Eternatus, which has just been dominating really hard. Fake Out, U-Turn, Knockoff, Flare Bliss. Max HP, max attack. This thing can revenge the things that Ditto would come in as, and it can also just put in work. Up next, Raikou, Scald, Extra Sensory, Thunderbolt, Shadow Ball. Just a Specs Raikou, pretty standard, pretty simple. And then lastly, Cresselia, kind of more of a stally one. Psychic, Light Screen, Moonlight, and Thunder Wave, which I really like this week. So Thunder Wave can it can cripple the Marchado really well. And I mean, I was thinking about maybe saying go Cassibberry or whatever it's called, the one that reduces Ghost. So that way it could Thunder Wave the Marchado more consistently, but that thing has Shadow Sneak anyways, which would be doing pretty big damage. Then I could also see maybe bringing a physical wall set to do a little better against Scizor, but you don't really want to stand against Scizor anyways. But those are the teams, and I'll see you guys in the battle. So, alright, if we get into this battle, looking at the lead matchup, I find this lead matchup kind of hard to predict. If I was Monster, I think I would lead Raikou, just kind of a pretty solid offensive pressure mon. And if I was SirKill, I think I would lead Rotom Heat, but this really could be anything, and I don't really remember too well what ends up happening. So let's see what they do end up leading. Scizor lead and the Incineroar lead. So great lead for Monster, immediately leading correctly. And then out comes the Rotom Heat, which I feel like was a pretty obvious play. And then the Rotom goes for a quick Pain Split, and as Incineroar U-turns out. So just being able to heal up is pretty nice. Into this Darkrai, just kind of trying to do pressuring stuff, but it misses the Dark Void. That's okay, it gets Blunder Policy'd up. And now it just goes for a Dark Pulse, doesn't quite do enough. And Overheat is able to KO it. So that's kind of unfortunate opening out, but like I wouldn't have personally brought in Deoxys that early, I guess, because that looks to be his sort of late game cleaner if stall doesn't work, and bringing it in that early, if something goes wrong and you lose your Deoxys, or not lose your Deoxys, lose your Darkrai, then that kind of is just downhill for the rest of the game. But Scalding taking out the Rotom Heat, which is Incineroar's best check. And then in comes this Mew. Obviously, Monster's spec, so he has to switch out, as the Mew can just nasty plot up. And this is when things kind of get real, because it doesn't really know, or Monster doesn't really know what is going to happen. Is this Mew trying to win on its own? But the Mew is really just getting up really hard, and because of the Colbur Berry, it can safely stay on that Incineroar. And then now it can Baton Pass out into the Eternatus, which now is at +4 and can pretty cleanly sweep, other than Cresselia, which because of just his moveset, and even with Shadow Ball, it doesn't KO just because Cresselia is that fat. Thunder Wave, if that did not hit, that was just GG right there. That Eternatus would have ran through Monster's team, but because it hit, which is pretty, I'm not saying lucky, Mithing would have been unlucky, but because it hit, Monster's still slightly in it. Critting that, again, very helpful, as Eternatus is incredibly bulky, especially with an Assault Vest on. In comes this Latias, which is pretty much forced to go for the Outrage. Can't set up anything at all, and the Eternatus goes down. Now in comes this Marshadow, which just is able to OHKO the Latias, and at this point, he has to go. He goes Raikou, even though the Marshadow is faster and can hit this thing incredibly hard, doing 90%. As the Raikou just goes for Shadow Ball, which does 93 back, but at the same time, like, wouldn't just switching to Incineroar be good? Although I don't think Monster realized he was choice banded. And now in comes Celesteela, which Spectral Thief does a good chunk to. I personally would have brought in Incineroar because, I mean, like, at this point you could, from the calcs, safely deduce that was, choice band damage, and you're able to just pretty much tell. And then in comes the Ditto, so missing the seeds is kind of unfortunate, but so now they're like kind of in a seed war. Ditto having the lower base HP means that Monster will recover more, but Monster's means that SirKill would recover more, but Monster's leftovers tip it into his favor. And this Celesteal is at +1 defense, so it's pretty safe to do kind of a lot. But in comes the Mew, as Monster just goes for Fake Out, which kind of just nets the Mew a little bit of health. Mew goes for Aura Sphere, Incineroar's AV, so it's bulky enough to take it, as Incineroar just U-turns out, and this Mew has pretty much revealed itself to be very passive. Can't really touch Celesteela, so Monster can kind of just start getting set up. Mew comes in, Ditto comes in before any setup happens, and now Monster can pretty safely just start Cosmic powering up in front of this thing. There really isn't anything that's gonna really happen. It's just gonna be a stall war, if I remember correctly. I'll go fast until this kind of resolves. Just it's just mostly the same stuff. Yeah, they're just going to +6, both of them, as they kind of just are gonna end up slowly stalling out. And yeah, this takes a while. I think through this entire interaction, I'm just gonna pause it real quick. Ditto still has not revealed the Quick Claw, which that's kind of unlucky, but at the same time it doesn't really matter, and it's kind of helpful to have it not be revealed. And they're actually staying at roughly the same amount of health. Air Slash is doing absolutely nothing, but they're both max in defense and Spadef, almost pretty much. But yeah, they're just not going anywhere in health, which makes this incredibly long. It's just going to be pretty much a PP stall, because Ditto is just naturally low on PP. I forgot about that for a second, but Ditto being here, I can slow it down now. Ditto, when it transforms, only 5 PP in each move, so yeah, there really wasn't much that SirKill was able to do, but because this Celesteela doesn't have Flamethrower, it's just going to be kind of locked into a stall war with this Scizor now. And now Scizor can pretty much just get, it's taking 25 a turn, plus Seeds is 37, but it can heal back 15% and then also Roost off, making this just kind of a stall battle that Monster's kind of bound to lose now. So yeah, again, I'm just going to speed through this a little bit more, because it's going to be just a lot of the same. SirKill getting to pretty high, SirKill getting to max attack and just healing up, Monster trying to just do something. Knockoff does 21, getting rid of the leftovers tips it even more into SirKill's favor though, as yeah, it's pretty much just gonna, with Roost, take just and this battle is kind of lost from here, because Celesteela just lacks reliable recovery outside of rest. Critting does not really matter. I think that was SirKill's game anyways. Yeah, and then just taking it out. So the sets were really creative, and other than that, just it was a little longer for the games in this league, but most of that was just kind of setting up in each other's faces when they knew that they couldn't do anything to each other. And yeah, but good game to both of them. And now I believe we're going to have an interview. Alrighty, and for today's interview we have SirKill. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Hey everyone, how's it going?
Alrighty, and your match with Monster was definitely a great one. Do you want to break down your sets?
Yeah, definitely. So Monster has a very unorthodox but a super good team in my opinion, but it had just a few holes in it that I thought I could exploit with this battle. So yeah, definitely I'll first look at Mon. So he had Megalarias, Magearna, Celesteela, Cresselia, Galarian Corsola, Incineroar, Decidueye, Darkrai, Alamamola, Raikou, and Lycanroc. So super fat, very difficult to break down, especially his dual steals. They were a problem. Magirna less so, Celesteela more so. His Incineroar had a fantastic matchup versus me. It beat up a lot of my threats. It beat my Mew, it beat my Tapu Bulu, it beat my Mega Scizor. So that was like a big one I was scared for, really scared for Megalarius as well. That thing can do a million different things.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, definitely a very scary team, and I'm just glad I got this match out of the way.
Yeah, you're able to win it, which is pretty big,
Yeah.
pretty much locking down that number one seed.
Yeah.
Um, any particular like sets that you really want to go over? Like I'm sure this Mew set.
Yeah. So this Mew said that Mew wasn't even there at the first part. I thought I was gonna bring, because that Incineroar was such a huge problem. I wanted to bring like a Calm Mind Suicune or something, just so I could take hits, so I can like just take on the Incineroar a lot better. But yeah, my friend Fatty Jones over here, he told me, "Wow, your Eternatus completely speed creeps the hell out of his team. Why don't you just pass Nasty Plots to your Eternatus?" And given how fat Eternatus is and how how specially offensive his team is, I said, okay, combine that with an Assault Vest. I think I can sweep his team just with a few nasty plots on the Eternatus. And it has like the perfect coverage to beat his team. But he prepped very well against it. The T wave was spot on. I kind of wish I had Lumberry, but
Mm-hmm.
what can you do?
Yeah.
So the EVs for Mew are a bit specific. So 68 speed to outspeed a max speed Magearna. Colbur plus the special defense plus the HP was to lift a +2 Dark Pulse. I think it was a +2 Dark Pulse. I'm not sure, but pretty sure it was like a +2 Dark Pulse from a Darkrai and pass speed into the Eternatus on that. Because Mew found a lot of like if he brought his Alamomola, which he's been doing a lot to wish pass through his walls, because his walls don't have that much recovery. So I thought Aloe would be like one of the best mons I can pass nasty plots from to my Eternatus.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the Ditto is there. His team, uh, like we said in our interview before, which unfortunately
Yeah.
didn't record,
It's my
you
bad.
said that you felt Ditto didn't have the best matchup because his team is so fat. But I think that it just having information on your opponent's sets, it goes a long way. And I wanted to bring Quick Law Ditto because it gives you like a 70% chance to win speed ties with the Ditto. So it ended up being super helpful because I was able to scout out his Celesteela set and find out he did not have Flamethrower. So that meant that my Scizor pretty much 1v1 the Celesteela if it was lead seeded.
Mm-hmm.
So super happy about this decision. Really happy I brought the Ditto.
Yeah.
Uh, Rotom Heat, generally very difficult for him to switch into this mon. Nasty Plot, Thunderbolt, Overheat, Pain Split. Him not having a ground type was, I mean, just the fact that I think Thunderbolt was very spammable versus him. I even contemplated having like a Scarf Rotom Heat, just pivoting around his team and chipping his threats down, because I think just having a ground type is super
Mm-hmm.
helpful. Not to mention, whenever the Celesteela came in, and if it didn't have Toxic, if it had like Flamethrower for my Scizor, it would just be able to nasty plot in his face and just beat down anything that came into the switch. So
Mm-hmm.
a really good Rotom Heat set. I feel this Rotom Heat put in a lot of work. Mega Scizor was my main answer to the Magearna. Swords Dance, I felt because Magearna's main ways of setting up his Calm Mind, and I felt he wouldn't bring shiftier sets versus a Marshadow. I just felt it wouldn't work that well. So def- I thought he'd bring like a Trick Room Magearna, Trick Room Calm Mind Magearna, which had like a much better
Mm-hmm.
matchup versus me. So I thought, okay, the attack investment is there so that I can 3-hit kill the Magearna. Swords Dance, I knew I could set up on the Magearna. Knockoff, I can take out any items I felt on the switch. Roost for recovery, basically. And finally, the Marshadow set. Uh, so his team. So yeah, the close combat meant that I could 2-hit KO a PizDef Celesteela, which is extremely stupid. And his team, in general, didn't want to take Bandit Spectral Thieves really well. His answers to it were Incineroar and Darkrai, but then both of those got blocked by close combat. So I felt that Marshadow could really break well mid game, and definitely like put in the amount of work it's been able to put in the season.
Yeah,
So
and like your team, I just kind of realized it now. Like you really can't get set up on at all with a Marshadow and a Ditto.
and a Mew as well. That thing learns transform.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so
Has anyone
that
like
was the main goal of the team.
has
So
anyone brought like
just
offensive setup against you at all?
sorry.
Has like a lot of has any offensive setup been brought against you?
Not that I remember. I do not remember frankly,
Yeah.
but I think I. Oh yeah, yeah, duh. When I fought what's this guy Germ? Yeah, he brought a nasty plot, Darkrai versus me before Darkrai was with Monster, and I just let the Darkrai set up on my mute and then went back into my Ditto and like reverse swept his team with Dark Pulse. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
uh, definitely.
Yeah.
And you were saying that you felt Marshadow wasn't that good
Uh-huh.
of a mon, and
Yeah.
I think I've changed your
Yeah, you
opinion on
definitely
that.
changed my mind on that. I just like didn't really see like 125 attack and 125 speed. Like yeah, that they're both great, but not too much bulk and kind of for an Uber it looked like on paper pretty underwhelming, but no, it's just insane.
It forces prep. That's what you want. You want to force prep, right?
Mhm.
Technician is busted when you can spam 90 base power rock tunes, 90 base power force bombs.
Mhm.
I think that's busted. I think that's super good, and it's
Mhm.
always touted as like one of the top threes in draft. So when I
Mhm.
got second overall pick, I'm like, I hope Marshadow gets to me because I really want to use this mod.
Mhm.
And funnily enough, in another league, it has some bulk. I was able to take a +2 Mega Lucario's Bullet Punch on a Marshadow set.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a really good mon in my
Mhm.
very fun to use, super great mon in my opinion.
Mhm.
Shout outs to it was in GBA season 9 6 foot hacks. He used a Marshadow and he was able to absolutely dominate the league with it. So definitely a good mon.
Yeah.
Let's see who gets it next season.
Yeah. Who gets it next season if it's still allowed? I don't think we would ban it, but it's definitely
Nah, I mean there's answers to it. It's
yeah.
just that it's super good.
Mhm. There's answers to a lot of things other than like what we had to
Yeah,
ban. Like I don't think anything's
yeah.
coming off that ban list other than maybe Mega Mewtwo X. But
I don't know. That thing is quite fast and quite strong.
yeah,
So
but I don't think anything would be coming off the ban list. I don't think anything's really changing about that. Um,
yeah.
but yeah, it's been a
Oh
fun
yeah,
season.
Ditto's moving up.
Ditto's moving up.
Ditto's moving
Yeah,
up.
Ditto's moving up. Genesect is moving
getting
up.
getting a free Uber for like a tier 4. Like I mean, I had to grab that.
Mhm.
Like it's just too good.
Yeah, there are a couple things that are moving up and maybe down, but yeah.
Yeah.
hmm And then what else about this team? You're 7-0, so bye in playoffs, and then
Yeah. Hopefully.
potentially a front runner to win this championship.
I hope so. There's a lot of good competition.
Yeah.
Fatty's been on a roll. Liam is superb. He's such a good battler. He has a very amazing team.
hmm
You've had a lot of success with your team as well. It's a
Yeah.
shame you have quite a tough schedule compared to
Yeah.
mine, but a lot
Yeah.
of good front runners, a lot of
hmm
very well built teams. Uh, Another one of my favorite teams. Well, I kind of built it was Fuji's team. I think
hmm
that's a very difficult team to prep against.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, what did I create that I can't prep against that team? So
Yeah.
a lot of good teams, a lot of great players, and
hmm
yeah. So
Yeah. Alrighty. Well,
yeah.
thanks for this interview.
Okay. Take
Uh,
care.
you too. Until next time, Jesse504 out.
Bye.